Hello everyone, this is going to be a basic Python. What we're going to do in this video is we're going to be talking about if statements and variables. So as you see, I already have Visual Studios open, so this is based off of if you already have Python downloaded. So looking here, you're going to look at Visual Studios. So what I really need here is I need my sidebar, because the reason why I like it is because I need to look at my files and my folders. And the reason for that is because you're going to have different ones. Sometimes you're going to have a text file and a Python file, and what you're going to do is you're going to pull some information from a text file and pull it in your Python file. And so it's really important to be able to see where those are, because you have to have the right paths for it to locate that text file into your Python. But we're not going to get into that. That's more for future lessons. So right now I'm just going to stick with the if statement. And so if you do not see your sidebar yet, you can either just go to view and toggle your sidebar. But there's an easier way to do it too. You can also just click right here and that should open your sidebar as well. So then you're going to go ahead and open a new folder. So I'm going to make this a Python folder. And here in the Python folder, I'm going to make a new file. So you can name this anything that will relate to what the file is going to be about, which in the end, this will be about grade, or grades to make it plural. So I'm adding a p.py at the end because Visual Studios really can work with different languages. So by saying .py, I'm letting it know that this is going to be a Python file. So now first things first is let's talk about our variable. So now I'm going to say a variable name. So my message is going to be a variable name. And this single equal sign here is assigning the variable to, I'll say hello world. So this is my value, which is a string. And so you can do a string. A string is either double quotations or single. So I'll go ahead and do single for now. And if you see this right here, the dot, that's telling you that you made changes to your file and it's not saved. So it's very important that you save that. So now that I made my variable, I'm going to go ahead and call it and print it. So this should print hello world, which that's where you see it right here. So you're probably wondering, well, if I just put hello world in print, does that work? Yes, it will. So you just say hello world. So that will work either way. Now you're probably wondering why I just print the information versus making a variable name. I'll get into that later when I start talking about grades, but the difference is also, instead of printing, I'll just go ahead and say, because when you print it, the only way to make changes is to keep printing it. I'm saying hola or ciao. So I'll print all four of them. I mean 3, not 4. I was counting the message. So, but what if you don't want to print all 3 and just want to make changes to certain ones? That's why we would have our variable, my message. And whatever I change here will change my message. So I'll say this is an important message. So as remember what I said here, watch for the dot, so it's not going to be saved. So if I run it again, it's still showing me the other information, hello world, hola, and ciao, because I didn't save it. So you're probably wondering how I'm saving it. I'm actually doing Command S because it's a Mac, and I can also save it here. So now when I print it, this is an important message will appear. Now I'm just going to clear my terminal because I just don't want to get too confused by having so much information on here. So now to move on to how variables can be useful. So I'm going to add a grade. So with my grade, I'm actually not going to use a string this time. I'm going to use an integer. The reason why is because I'm going to call numbers and I'm going to have them relate to each other with my if statement. But if you think about it, if you see a string, you can put characters, which are letters. You can put numbers, 87, 1, 2, 3. You can even put characters. It's still going to print it. It's not going to give you any issues. Grade. So what happens is it's going to print anything and it's going to make it a string in here. But the thing is, you can't add an integer to it. So if I wanted to do plus 98, it's going to give me an error. Because it's saying must be a string, not an integer. So what's happening is now it's getting confused because this is an integer, but this is a string. So now instead I'm going to say, if I were to change that to what's 2 plus 2, it'll give me 4. Because now they're both integers, and now I can do the calculations inside my variable and then call it here. But if you were to change this to a string, you're saying, well, number 2 plus 2, remember, it's not going to recognize it because it won't calculate a string with an integer. And this one, because these are strings, they're always going to be the same. So it doesn't see it as an integer, so it's not going to calculate it. So most likely that should pull a 22. See? So pretty much I'm saying 2 plus 2 as a string should both equal 22. And then because it's a string, they're both strings, and it won't care if I add a word to it. I'll add a space here, word. Because now it should be 22 space word. All right, now to get to the if statement. So working with grades, I'm going to assign my grade to the integer 90. So my if statement is grade is greater than or less than 90. I'm going to have it print A. So now I'm going to, since this is a grade, they're going to be the exact same because I'm calling my variable here. And it's important because now you're wondering, well, why am I printing a string of A? So why not just make it an A? So whenever it's going to be a word, it's going to assume that's a variable. So it's going to say, because you see that it says undefined variable A. So if I were to run this right now, it's going to say name A is not defined. And the reason why is because this thinks it's a variable because it's not in a string. So if I were to change and put A is A, it should now recognize it. There we go. Now, there's really not a reason to do that because the thing is, I don't want the variable A because I'm already saying in the if statement, if a grade is greater than 90, print A. Now, else if is saying, because if you're thinking about there's not one grade. Grade A is not the only grade out there. There's a grade A, B, C, D, and an F. So I want to call the other grades by doing an else if. But in Python, it's going to be called ILF, which means else if. So grade is greater than or equal to 80, print B. ILF grade is greater than or equal to 70, print C. ILF grade is greater than or equal to 260, print D. Now I'm going to change it. Now I'm going to say else. So pretty much else is whatever is lower than 60 will be an F. So I don't have to make an else if its grade is equal to or less than F, print F. No, because I already told it if anything's higher than 90, it's going to be an A. So now we already related to 60 as being D. Now whatever is lower than 60 should be an F. So you'll just say else. And else print F. Now some of you might have been paying attention and saw that I made an error. So, but if you haven't, some of you that haven't caught it, I'll let you know what it is. So as you see here, I made my grade 90. So whatever is 90 should print A. So yep, that's correct. Now, what if I were to change this to a 60? Technically, that should be a D. Well, it's still printing A. So this is where sometimes when you write code and sometimes you might do a typo and you'll look at that. That's why it's good to test your code sometimes and you wonder, okay, what did I do wrong? Well, this is what I should have done. So what I'm saying is grade is less than 90. So if you look at it here, this is always going to be less than, this is always going to be greater than. So technically, if you think about it, grade is always going to be less than 90, no matter what I put. If I put a 20 here, it's going to be less than 90, but to it, it's still going to equal A. So the thing is, none of these are going to call because this is always going to be true. Anything that I put in here that's lower than 90 is always going to equal A. So really what I should have said, grade is less than or equal to 90. And that will be the same for these. Grade is less than or equal to 80. Grade is less than or equal to 70. And so the reason why I'm putting the equal to is because I also wanted to call the 60. So as you see here, if I were to say 60 right now, it should say D now. See? Now if I were to take the equal sign off, now it's just going to say if grade is less than 60. So let's see what happens if I leave it at 60. See, now it thinks it's an F because it's anything that's less than 60 is an F. That's why I added the equal sign because I still want 60 to be a D, not an F. All right, so now let's test our code again. Let's say if we say 100. It's an A. Now let's say if it's 300. Should still be an A. Exactly. And if we were to do, let's do 70. If we were to do 65. Should be a C. There we go. So as you can see now, no matter what I do, I have everything added correctly. So now it will always let me know what my grade is. If I do a 1, it's an F. So I hope this was helpful. And just keep on practicing with Python. It's really easy to get once you start writing and just play around with it, and it gets really fun once you start playing around with it. So I hope this was helpful, and if you have any questions, just go ahead and reach out to your mentor and instructor.